I've got 99 problems, and essential oils solve like 87 of them. Are you curious about healing modalities, but don't know how or where to start? Which ones are real and what's just a trend? Who to trust to work with you or in your energy? Me too. I'm Chris Greer, and this is Grounding Journey. I've been on a lifelong journey and wanted to dig into a variety of ways to heal along the way and the tools we can use to do it. So I found some neat women who use different modalities to heal themselves and those around them. I invited them to have a conversation with me where they can share about their journey, what called them to their favorite modality, and how they use their tools on their journey and the profound results they've seen. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Grounding Journey. I'm super excited to be joined by my new friend, Adora Winquist. She is a modern alchemist who is a visionary in the field of quantum alchemy, an evolutionary transformational path for self-mastery, which facilitates healing at the DNA level using an amalgamation, I'm not sure if I said that word right, of plant and vibrational modalities. So I'm super excited to have this conversation with you today. We're going to talk about the journey to essential oils and herbs and natural products. So welcome, Adora. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's an honor to be here with you today. I was really looking forward to our conversation.
Well, absolutely. And we had kind of an intro call before because you were going to be a guest to talk about chakras. And we realized how much we have in common in our interest of essential oils. And we both use different brands and we've had different lives. So I want to throw out there for the listeners that this is not to promote a specific brand of essential oils. It's really to talk about the journey to finding those things that resonate with your body and resonate with your health, and how we can then use those oils to support our lifestyle and our emotional healing. And so I think it's going to be a really great conversation today.
Thank you so much. I think so too. I love that we have this synergistic connection.
Absolutely. And we're in the same state and not far away from each other. So at some point we'll get to have like face-to-face conversation, and it excites me at that opportunity.
Me too.
So I've read your formal bio. Tell us, like, who's Adora? Who do your friends, who do your family know you as?
Well, that's a great question. So I would say that at my very core, I am a lover of nature. As a child, I spent so much time either in the woods or in the water, catching crayfish, collecting worms. I know that might seem relatively odd, but I did. At one point, I had 150 worms that I used to carry around in these construction pails. But
wow.
collecting stones and spending time with the plants, for me, it's where I felt most connected, most at home, most safe. And it was truly a place of respite and sanctuary for me. And so I think I carried that connection all the way through to my adulthood. But in another little funny tidbit, when I was young and it was time to do the dishes after dinner, I would excuse myself to go to the restroom, where I would sit for about an hour and mix all of my mother's expensive perfumes and lotions and creams and powders until everything was cleaned up and I avoided any chores, especially doing the dishes. And so I think that too is a portent of my work now, and spending over 20 years professionally creating products for not just myself, my family, my loved ones, my clients, but also in large scale with the companies that I've created. And it's kind of humbling to think that the core formulas that I've created through the years have sold hundreds and hundreds of thousands of units worldwide. So it's just to me, it's a wonderful reminder of what we can do with our lives once our passion and purpose is awakened.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful way to say it, of what we can. And I enjoy that you shared one about the worms, because I mean, like, that's just a fun visualization I have of you. But it's been fun to talk lately to most of my guests. We all have this connection to being outside, being in nature, being grounded in that. And
Mm,
that's where that connection to essential oils, to herbs, comes from, because they're all gifts from the earth, and
yeah.
crystals and those things that we're able to bring into our home and into our body is a deeper connection with that. So I know that you had it. I love this story also, that you were playing with your perfumes and lotions and stuff early, creating tinctures and elements, because that definitely played a part in your adult life. I can see that, knowing the products and knowing the stuff you've created. But tell us where you really found that connection, that
Mm.
healing through essential oils and through using herbs. And where was that for you? I think when we spoke, it was more about your teen years.
It was, interestingly, when I was 18, I moved away from home. I went to California. Intentionally, I was going to go to school, and it wasn't a great fit for me at that point. But I had a really profound experience there at the time of the equinox, and the first ever experience I had with a shamanic healer, a local to Northern California. And so, in the process of this ceremony he created, I felt something inside of me really wake up. And so I started pulling out books and studying things like herbs, like energy, like esoteric
Mm,
philosophy. Um, and also, for someone who had experienced chronic depression and anxiety since my adolescence, I was really curious about how these aspects of the natural world could have an effect on my own health and happiness. Um, and so it was kind of a peripheral study for a period of time. And then when I was about 19, I moved to Cape Cod, and I was really on my own for the first time. And I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't have health insurance. And every year I would get bronchitis brought about from allergies. And so I couldn't afford to go to the doctor. And I was really, really quite sick. And, as a child, I used to stay home from school for a few weeks, twice a year, from these bouts of bronchitis.
wow.
But somewhere I heard something about herbs, and I went out, bought a book in 5 different herbs: eucalyptus, hyssop, licorice root, fresh ginger, and I made a tea. And there was some thyme in there too. And I was amazed by how quickly I healed. In fact, to this date, I still have not had bronchitis, which to me is a
Mm,
revelation. And
mhm.
so I started making teas and tinctures, and anyone in my inner circle that was feeling unwell, I would offer that as a way to
Mhm.
heal. And so, working with the herbs, of course, led me to essential oils. And then I thought, wow, I'm really at home. Like, this is incredible. Because I've always been very much someone who is focused on olfaction, and the sense of smell has always been very acute for me. So I started exploring essential oils, and in truth, I started exploring what I thought were essential oils, but they were actually fragrance oils. And this became such a wonderful journey of education and developing my own lexicon of quality, of purity, through building the muscle of my organoleptic senses, right? Sense of smell, sight, touch, and often taste. And so, then it became a real wealth of learning about the aromatics, learning about the plants, and learning that not every essential oil is created equally. And oils that say that they're pure and natural often are not. Essential
Mhm.
oils that say that they're therapeutic. So, it's been just such a awakening and passion for me. And of course, and I started doing some travel study to places like Egypt, understanding
Mm-hmm.
not only how aromatics were part of the ancient culture, but how esoteric philosophy is, of course, entrenched in their culture as well. And then travel to India, which was one of the most profound experiences of my life. We was a very small group, an intimate group of essential oil educators and formulators and business owners and leaders in the field, that we traveled to all of these small villages in southern India on the first trip, in northern India on the second, to visit the farms where the plants
Mm.
are grown, to be able to go to the fields and pick the flowers with the women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just as the flowers are opening, for example, a jasmine flower, right? The jasmine has to be picked at a certain time, very early in the morning, because the time that it is picked, of course, is it directly affects the essential oil chemical constituents that are in it. And of course, you want the highest yield and range of chemical compounds. So
Mm-hmm.
each plant has to be picked at a certain time for optimization, and then of course distilled within a specific time period as well. So that trip was such a journey, and I say that I laughed more on that trip and I cried more on that trip than I had in my life to date, because it was a real heart opening experience
Mm-hmm.
to be able to connect with the people, with the culture in such a unique and authentic way, and to see what it takes from seed to harvest to distillation, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to know that if the journey that an aromatic takes from that seed distillation is quite extensive before it becomes a product that's either at your health food store or your local boutique or wherever you purchase your essential oils or essential oil based products are.
It really is. And that's one of the cool things, to kind of go back to two things you said, is you got a book about the herbs. My first experience with essential oils, I shared in another episode, was I was 23 and facing my third breast surgery, and they were talking mastectomy. And so for me, I didn't want to go that mainstream route. I was fortunate I did have insurance at the time, but you need to have that many surgeries. And I found a book, and I found something that talked about essential oils and talked about evening primrose oil as an herb. And
Mhm.
that's the fun, as you say, a lifelong journey, is discovering what oils work for you, what
Mhm.
oils don't work for you, and reading so much research about it. Because whatever brand you use or resonate with, it's finding that education, because there's so much education out there about essential oils and about herbs. And I've not really gotten into herbs myself, because oils is what brought me into natural healing.
Mm.
That's where I've kind of been my playground. And one of the things I like about essential oils, and kind of touching on what you talked about, the how they're harvested in the plants, and the citrus oils, how they are, is I think parts of those resonate with the chakras and where you are spiritually,
Mm.
because you've got your earth oils that come from the roots and from the trees. And then you've got your citruses, which come from the rinds, and you've got your florals, and that kind of moves throughout the chakras. And I know for me personally, over the years, I'm drawn to different categories of oils based on different points in my life. Have you experienced that also?
Mhm. I love that. I think that's so beautiful. Yeah, I mean, for me, as a formulator and entrepreneur, one of my very first sets of blends were based on the chakra system. Because as
Mm.
an energy healer, and I guess I didn't really mention this, but one of the things that brought me even deeper into my study of essential oils and vibrational medicine was, of course, bronchitis on a periphery, anxiety and depression. Those brought me to find Reiki. And when I had
Mhm.
my first Reiki attunement in the mid 90s, I started to see colors around people. And I thought, well, this is really amazing. I want to experience more and find out why. What do these colors correlate
Mhm.
to? And then I started to see how, for myself and my loved ones, that the energy work shifted emotion, and it
Mhm.
shifted energy within the seven main chakras. And
Mm-hmm.
so, from my own healing journey with endometriosis, which I was diagnosed with in my late teens, early 20s, um, I was deeply disconnected from my own source.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I
Yes.
had studied so much about the oils and the energy to this point, this really brought me to my knees. And so I knew that I had a choice. My physician was recommending a hysterectomy at 21, and I knew I was to have children. He was continually recommending prescribing pain pills because the pain was debilitating. And there was one day in particular, I realized I had lost my joie de vivre. I just felt so done, right? And
Mm-hmm.
21, it's a young age, but such a
Yes.
sense of depletion. And so I was driving to work one day. And of course, now, I've been taking a lot of these opiates to address the pain. And I was driving to work and I felt like I was in a bit of a pill fugue, right? A fugue state. And I swerved because I almost hit a car.
Oh,
And I
wow.
said, you know what? This is no way to live.
Mm-hmm.
I've had all of these tests, I have all these recommendations, but I know that this isn't the right path. So it drew me back into contact with myself and into a deeper longing of search, of study, of education with the essential oils, with the energy healing, which ultimately brought me to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, which of course is a 4-year, it's like the premier international school for vibrational medicine, teaching energy healing with a focus on the chakra system and a focus on psychodynamic skills. Because until we can clear our own subconscious patterns and pains and places where we suffer, how can we be that brightest light, that best version of ourselves that we're meant to be?
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
also with the premise that, as healers, we can only take our clients or our community as far as we've gone in our own journey of healing. So the school was a really profound journey for me, not only as a healer, but as the healee, right? As
Mm-hmm.
individual deeply seeking healing.
Wow.
So yeah, absolutely. The disease process of endometriosis, I think, was perhaps my biggest physiological challenge. And yet the healing from that also brought me right to my path, right? Right to my
Mm-hmm.
purpose. Right to a place of my gifts. And so that's so often the truth for many of us that find our way. It's through healing our own health crisis, right? And our
Yes.
own place of um, inner calling, right? That's calling for the light of not only divine consciousness to come into, but the beautiful alchemies from the natural world, like the plant medicine, like the minerals, and like so many other beautiful forms and facets of these philosophies.
It is so amazing how much you can bring together. And
Mhm.
when you open yourself to that journey, as obviously sometimes we find it and sometimes we repel from it. So we get these healing crises or these emotional crises that
Yeah.
it is, it's that whole, if you're not going to listen, your body's going to get really loud, whether it's emotional or physical. It's going to get really loud so that you can't continue to ignore it. And that
Yeah.
brings us to where we are. And I really like that you said you were disconnected because I think that's where I was in my 20s. I was in my 20s, newly married, trying to get pregnant, living on our own, trying to get started in life. And it's so easy to get distracted. But one of the beautiful things is you get distracted so that you can discover. And
I
that's
love
some
that.
of the beauty is the actual discovering and how it lights you up and feels in your soul as you begin to discover what resonates for you. And if it doesn't light you up, then keep moving, try something else and try something else until you feel it light you up. Because I know when I talked with you the first time, we were talking about something different, and then oils came up, and I just watched you light up and how much you smile and your eyes glisten over talking
Mm,
about natural products. So tell us a little bit about, so now you've discovered your health, you've discovered how these oils and how natural products and energy vibration can support you. What brought you to use these things to support clients and others with it? Where did you know that was your calling and your purpose
mm.
to do of service?
Well, I would say that interestingly, one of my very first products came from my time in working in corporate America. And
Mm,
so this was the mid 90s, and I was blending things on my own for myself and my family. And I was working on Cape Cod in frontline customer service for cable TV,
oof.
which kind of sounds
That's got to
interesting,
be
but
rough.
wow. I, still to this day, because it was so many years ago, now I kind of chuckle about it, but it was incredibly stressful because people would come in and if their TV didn't work, they would have like a quantum meltdown. Like, what am I
Hmm.
supposed to do with my children? How am I supposed to make it through the day? And they would just lose it, small office, and then they would leave, but that energy was tangible.
Yes.
It affected myself, it affected my coworkers. And I thought, there has to be some way to resolve this. So,
Hmm.
one of my first aromatic formulas came from that experience and creating a blend of essential oils to cleanse and refresh the space and the energy to lift that
Hmm.
heaviness that was felt. And I think that that's something that we can relate to, whether it's at home. Right. My two children are being homeschooled right now. We got the cats, the kids. Right now my office is in the kitchen. It's humorous. Or if you think about a corporate boardroom, right? Heated
Hmm.
discussions, the consulatory, the classroom. There are so many areas that we can use essential oils to transmute heaviness or negativity and create a more harmonious environment that's conducive to whether it's study, whether it's communication, whether it's introspection, whether for me,
Hmm.
it's writing. Um, so my very first products came from this. And then I
Hmm.
would have other friends. And then when I started my healing practice in the mid 90s, people would say, well, Adora, can you make me something that is an aphrodisiac in nature? Can you make me something for my muscular discomfort? Can you make me something to help me sleep? And so all of my products essentially have come through either my own journey of healing to embody my greater light, my greater essence, or to do that for my clients or my students. And so it becomes a really beautiful way to co-create and say, okay, there is something that this individual or myself is experiencing, because if one person is experiencing that, they or we
Hmm.
are not alone.
Yes.
So to create a remedy like this, and it becomes something to really offer to you humanity for awakening, for healing, for enhancing emotional resilience, for
Hmm.
empowering the stress response, right? And so this is why my latest collection, the Elixirs for Quantum Living, there's only 3 products, and those 3 products address the 3 primary areas that we are all looking to modulate, to balance, to either increase, right, with energy, to lift in terms of our mood, and to enhance in terms of sleep and rest, right?
Hmm.
And so I love the opportunity to be able to work with the essential oils, to work with the crystals, to work with intention and energy, because the oils are so malleable to our intention. They're
Hmm.
so malleable to higher frequencies, higher energies. And so I believe, especially right now at this time of quantum shift on the planet, and as we're inviting this new earth and this new experience of holistic empowerment for humanity, that the essential oils are absolutely instrumental and integral in that process.
Well, and I think it's because of the vibration of the oils.
Mm.
And as we talked in the very beginning, we're all craving more time in nature, but it's that song, "They paved paradise and put up a parking lot."
Oh
Like that
yeah.
line where
Yeah.
it's such an effort some days. And I think with COVID and us all being home, I know me personally, I'm out of the habit of getting outside as much. And now, as it's going into colder weather, we're
Mhm.
not outside as much. So, bringing that vibration through crystals, through oils into our home and into our body is such a difference. And it's so vital in supporting us in that. So, if we're in a house that's got a crawl space, so our house isn't touching the ground, or we're in a tall apartment
Mm.
building and we're not touching the ground, or we forget to go outside, we've got that vibration in our home and in our space and in our bodies.
It's so true. And if you think about one of the very unique aspects of essential oils, especially the terpene rich, is that they are able to pass through the blood brain barrier
Hmm.
and offer the full gamut of their phytonutrients and oxygen
Hmm.
to not only our brain, but our bloodstream, our systems of the body, our cellular consciousness. And in that regard, our cells are able to increase their vital life force, our vital
Yes.
life force through this process. And it, to me, it is a beautiful, not only miracle of potential, of awaiting potential as we continue to discover and explore more of the oils, and in doing so, to discover and explore and excavate more of ourselves. And that's really why we're here, no? Right?
Hmm.
That inner journey.
Well, and I think that part of that exploring, to touch again of how the oils have different frequencies and different elements that relate to our chakras. And then if you didn't like one oil at some point, it doesn't mean you won't always not like it.
Yeah.
So play with them, research, explore, make sure they're quality. And as you mentioned, fragrance, my son has grown up with essential oils his entire life. He's had crystals around his bed, on his
Mm,
windowsill. Like, he doesn't know anything different. His girlfriend is getting more into it. And so we have diffusers going in the house all the time. He's had a diffuser in his room that he was in charge of since he was in his early teens.
that's
And
great.
yeah, I mean, I love it. And I love that he has one in his office. We just got some new ones in, and he's like, "Mom, I want this one." It's really fun to watch a 20-year-old boy, male. I shouldn't call him boy. I apologize, Kevin, because you'll hear this. Just watching him have that connection himself.
Mm,
And he made the comment the other day to me, and it was, how you get those mom wins every once in a while that you're like, "Oh, I did a good job."
yeah.
So
Champion.
yeah, he tells me he was at Walmart with his girlfriend one day, and she was like, "Oh, look at these essential oils. They're really inexpensive. I'm going to get some," because she's a poor college student, and she knows how we have
Mhm.
oils in our house all the time. And Kevin said, "Mom, I picked it up and showed her the bottle and said, 'This is crap. Like, this is not actually any good oils.'" And that to me was that moment
That
of,
was the win.
yes, good job, Kev. Good
Yeah.
job, me. Pat myself on the
Yeah,
back.
right. I love that, Chris. That's a high
Yeah,
five on it for sure.
thank you. And it literally just happened like 2 days ago. And it was so much fun to know that he had heard something I said. So I
Yeah.
hope that this conversation has really helped people, because oils are so flooded now that you can find them at Target, at Walmart, and not having that fragrance oil. If you find a bottle of vanilla for $8, it's not anything.
Mm.
And you do have to pay for that quality,
Yeah.
because of, as you said, they're from India, they're from Egypt, they're from different places. And you've got to, one, pay ethical, that you're paying for
Mhm.
quality, not just run of the mill, diluted, cut, any of that stuff. So one thing I did almost forget to go back to was, you mentioned that you had been to Egypt, which is one of our favorite places to travel. Uh, and you did a lot of research about the oils and how they used them in the past. Let's dig into that for just a second, because there is so much richness in there. And I went to Egypt traveling with my family, but I know a bit about it. But hearing that you've done the research sounds like you could even teach me something about it.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Um, I would say this, one of the things that really struck me, I've been twice to Egypt. The second trip that I went on was when I was part of the Rosicrucian organization, which is a very old mystery school that
Ooh.
teaches metaphysics, esoteric philosophy, and how we can build those muscles in our lives. Not only for our empowerment, but also to contribute to the greater good of all, ultimately, as part of our life purpose. And so we had this wonderful opportunity to go into, it was the time of the spring equinox, and they closed the pyramid
Mm.
down
Hmm.
just to our group for ceremony. So we had ceremony in the Queen's Chamber by candlelight. And we had ceremony in the King's Chamber as well, doing toning. And so being able to go on a trip like this and to go to some of these other temples where you can see a lot in the pictorials and the hieroglyphs,
Hmm.
the offering of the aromatics, and even one particular formula, you may have heard of this, called kaifi. It was used ceremonially for spiritual activation, but also for sleeping and many other purposes, because as we know, the essential oils, the aromatics, the plants are so versatile in their medicine.
Hmm.
And so there were many aromatics in this formula, like cypress, like frankincense. And to me, being able to have an appreciation for these aromatics in the places where they're grown is such an incredible opportunity. I will
Yes.
say, I will say to that as well, that there, even in Egypt, even in India, there are places where you go, well, they will say these are essential oils,
Yes.
and they are absolutely not.
Our tour guide
So
took
it's
us to one of
always,
those places.
yes, of course, of course.
And
So,
you can tell the difference.
caveat
You
beware,
can,
you can tell the difference. And not
yes.
to say, I did buy a perfume oil from there because I found it so delightful.
Hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with that per se, but it's about discernment, right? And
Hmm.
really building those muscles. I'm thinking about what you mentioned about the chakras, and because I'm working on my presentation deck to teach tonight essential
Hmm.
oils to the Brennan School. I was looking at a photo I had taken in India, and we had one very early morning, probably about 5:30 in the morning, where we went to a lotus pond, because the lotus flowers
Mm.
open very early, and these beautiful souls went out in these small boats, paddled with their hands to pick the lotus flowers, and brought them back to our small group and offered them to us. And I remember standing there with the white lotus in my hand, which it's an incredible aromatic absolute. It's very
Hmm.
rare. It's most often, if you find it, it's adulterated. But if you have the true aromatic, the attar or the absolute, they're just so multifaceted, multidimensional.
Hmm.
And so I remember holding that flower in my hand. You could feel the vibration of it as it was
Mm.
opening, and the aromatic quality profile was so ethereal. You could feel it open up the crown and just lift you from that spirit perspective up, out almost of your body, and to open this center of connection to divine source in such a remarkable way. So I couldn't help but share that after you mentioned the chakras.
I felt that I was right there with you in that, and how
Mm.
beautiful that felt. We have a lake near us that they've planted some flowers, and it's not at all as serene and beautiful as what you just described, but it sounded,
Mm.
I go there looking for them all year, waiting for them to get flowers and bloom. And that just sounded so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, I actually had brought it with me. I just came back recently from leading a retreat in southern France, Quest for the Divine
Mm.
Feminine, following the footsteps of Mary Magdalene to these very
Mm.
beautiful sacred places where I led meditation and ceremony. And we had a wonderful, had a wonderful partner and guide who is from France and really entrenched in the history. And one of the last days, we went to this gorgeous basilica of the Black Madonna in Limoux. And I had the White Lotus with me. And before everyone went into the chapel, I anointed them with the lotus. And it
Mm-hmm.
was such a beautiful, expanded way to come into this deep level of communion with the feminine. And in these sacred places where the frequency, the energy is palpable, is tangible, right? You can feel it
Mm.
within your cells and your being.
Ugh, I feel it just you talking about it and seeing in my mind's eye what that felt like. So thank you so much. And I think
Hmm.
that's a beautiful way to kind of wrap this episode, and thank you for the education, the experience that you shared with us, the knowledge and the visionary. I know that our followers are going to want to check you out, and you do have some really neat elixirs that I've been playing with for the last 2 weeks. So, where do you hang out? Tell us where our followers can find you.
Well, you can definitely find everything from the elixirs to our other products, like my new formulas, forgiveness and gratitude and release, at the adorawinquist.com website. There's also a list there for our events, including the free meditation that I lead weekly. There's also a monthly Mary Magdalene meditation that's also complimentary. So you can sign up for the newsletter there and find out what I'm doing, where I'm going to be. I'll be traveling in a few weeks to New York to do some events for my new book, which is, I'll do a little promo here. You can buy a signed copy of Detox, Nourish, Activate, Plant and Vibrational Medicine for Energy, Mood, and Love. It's co-authored by my ally with the plants, Dr. Lulu Shamik. And that can also be purchased on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. In addition to that, we have a couple of new retreats for 2022, another one
Nice.
to France, and then actually one here in North Carolina, which is going to be wonderful. It'll be led by two of my colleagues, beautiful aspects of the divine feminine. So we'll be leading something in the art of living in Boone, North Carolina next
Oh, I love that
October.
facility.
Yeah, it's gonna be wonderful. And then you can also follow us on social at Adora Winquist on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Our Instagram account is super active because we're posting every week with inspiration and alchemy from essential oils, from crystals, visualization, all sorts of wonderful tips and alchemies. And then let's see, what else did I want to say? I said the meditations, the book. I know I'm forgetting something right now. Oh, our YouTube channel, Adora Winquist, has a whole library of the meditation. So any meditation that you want to do, you can go and do there for free. And for those that are interested in working with me one-on-one, you can set up a 15-minute complimentary discovery session.
Well, we will put a link to your website in the groundingjourney.com post about this. So if people aren't sure how to spell your name or are driving, they know they can go to Grounding Journey and find a link to your social media, your Instagram, Facebook, and your website. And I just want to say, I haven't read your book, but you held it up and it looks like a great thick resource manual. Because I know for me, when I order books on Amazon or on Thrift Books, and I think it's a great yoga book, or I think it's a great book about moons, and you get it and it's 20 pages, 30 pages, and doesn't actually give you any information. Your book looks like it's got a lot of resources in it.
It's one of the things I've heard a lot is that it's a guidebook. Like people like keep it by their bedside and will just open it up to an aspect of wisdom for the day, because there's 11 different alchemical interventions, including essential oils and crystals and meditation and nutrition, that correlate to energy, mood, and love through the adrenals, through the brain, and through the heart, and how we can work with the system to detox and nourish and activate at the DNA level to embody our highest and healthiest and most vibrant path in life.
Well, I am adding it to my book list and we'll be getting my copy very soon. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, Adora, for your time, for your knowledge, and for your energy. And we're so grateful that you were able to be with us today.
It's such a pleasure. I can't wait to continue the conversation with you, Chris, and meet up for a tea or something one day soon.
Yes, for sure. We'll do it.
Blessings.
Yes, thanks again. Thanks for listening to Grounding Journey today. To learn more about me and Grounding Journey, I I invite you to visit my website at groundingjourney.com and subscribe to my mailing list.